Saints coach?
All right, welcome to the On My Block Super Bowl preview. I'm your host, Mike Wahle. Along with me, Packers all-time leading rusher, Ahman Green, pictured here in our new Packers podcast preview.
Awesomeness.
Preview. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Good video there you put together. I'm checking it out every week, seeing new little details. You are always cleaning the pile off. I saw you.
Yeah, that's all I had.
No, you had those where you own a guy here. Those moments are awesome. I love them when you own a guy. He can't go anywhere.
I hate now that we don't see guys cleaning the pile. Let me do the read real quick because I want to tell a story that's a good story for this. All right, so Bet Online. This is Super Bowl weekend. $16 billion. I think I heard that we're going to be betting this year. There's as many people betting on the Super Bowl as there's as many people bet. Tristan Crick is credited with this. She's an online bettor.
Right.
She said 1 in 5 people are betting on the Super Bowl. That's as many people as that admit to exercising by like running weekly. So there's as many people running weekly as there are betting on the Super Bowl this week, which is great. I asked her for a Venn diagram to see where those intersect, but we use BetOnline AG. That's our sponsor. BetOnline remains your number one source for your sports betting this season. Everything from the Super Bowl to pro and college basketball, UFC, MMA, esports, and more. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. With live betting options, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable, BetOnline is truly the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. So head to the website today or use your mobile device and join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline.ag, where the game. This is a great time. If you're ever going to start betting, now's AG. This might be your time to break out. There's like I just did my prop bet pool.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. It actually makes the game better. I think you couldn't do it every week because it's involved.
Yeah.
But it does make the game better, I have to admit.
I say it brings some fun. But what sucks is I'm in Nebraska. It's not a sports betting state. So I tried to do my DraftKings bets a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and it declined me. I'm like,
AG, listen, I've seen all the gangster movies about the Midwest. Like I watched Casino. That's where all those guys are from.
Yeah.
You guys have bookies out there. You talking
about I gotta go old school over here?
Yeah. So anyways, what I was gonna say is so back in the day, it was a good Packer story. So back in the day, Mike Sherman says to us, he comes into the offensive line room. He actually might have said this in front of the team meeting room. But it was about you. He just said, listen, we can't have Ahman Green getting extra people falling on him and like having to pick himself up 35 times a game. We get him ready for the playoffs. So he says, listen, we're about to go play the San Diego Chargers with this is back when Junior was still Junior and all that. That's what number one guy you're worried about. He goes, if anybody peeling anyone off the pocket, I'll take the fine. I will pay for it. Mike Sherman's just like, I'll pay for it out of my own pocket. Now, I'm not even sure if that's legal or whatever.
I remember that.
This is what he says, right?
Yeah.
So I'll never forget. I think I'm blocking Jamal Williams, and we're on the ground, over here, and you take off, and Flanagan just takes off, and you fall down, and literally it's like 1001, 1002. Flanagan just goes airmails right over the pile. He's just looking like a bullet, like trying to hit anybody. He doesn't care who it is. He was just like, hey, it's all paid for, man. We're good this week. So I remember the next week Sherman came in. He's like, all right, we just need to take it easy on this stuff. This is a little bit
can't put that out there and not expect guys to do that. Like I would have did the same thing. If I was an old lineman, my coach and my head coach comes in the old lineman room, and me being 6 foot plus and 300 plus pounds, I'm about to do the same thing y'all did. I'm down for that.
That was the whole game.
Right.
My whole thing was, people don't understand this now, but like back then, I was putting together this thing. You're watching highlights of everybody, and you realize the real way that the game's changed is that it used to be in the trenches. It's not the athleticism, all this other stuff. It used to be like the level of physical violence was actually extended to the floor. Like you try to put guys on the ground all the time, trying to put guys over the pile. Or whether they say it's not legal now or they just don't do it, they're too friendly, whatever it is, like That's where, to me, the game's changed the most. It's not in the moves, the athleticism. It's just like, I really wanted to put you over a pile as many times as possible and make you just furious at me so they wouldn't worry about you.
Hey, you're doing your job. Head up. Straight up. That's what that was.
In the news here, AG, before we get to the Super Bowl stuff, there's a couple of things that I'm really excited to talk to you about. The first one, it's not – so Greg Williams – we're signing him from Arizona to coach the cornerbacks, okay? He worked with Rasul Douglas when Rasul was on the practice squad for a month there, last year.
Was he with the Saints? Or no,
okay, so you're thinking of Greg Williams from like the whole thing where he was
Bounty
suspended
Gate.
for a year.
The
Yeah,
bounty bowl.
I thought it was too. I was like, holy hell, Greg Williams is going to come coach cornerbacks? Like, that's a bit of a demotion, right?
Okay. So it's not him. Okay.
This is not him. So he's getting the title of passing game coordinator. Over Ryan Downer. So Ryan Downer's the safeties coach, and a lot of people don't know these guys, but so Ryan Downer was he was brought in as a quality control guy, and he got hired as the safeties coach in March 2022, and so now they're bringing in this guy and giving him passing coordinator. So there's a little bit of I don't know how that works out there, but this guy was I think he was in a cup of coffee and a couple training camps. He went to NFL Europe back in the day. He's a little bit. I think he's like a year or two older than you and me. Played arena football and. Listen, this is the one thing that kind of stood out to me. I was just trying to read up on him, and he said, describe your coaching style. And he said, respectful. I said, what? What? And I thought, like, okay, is he saying that because, like, the defensive backs rooms has got their own kind of personality in every building.
100%.
And Jair, like, I don't know any of those guys, but like, he's got a very specific personality. So when he said that, I was like, man, how does that going to work? Like, respectful, like. I'll test that immediately. I'm not even in that room. I would test that immediately. It's an odd thing to say, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, because as you said, with the people in that room, you got like Zaire, Amos, Stokes,
Rasul, all those guys. Darnell.
And it's overall the position itself is a mindset of they're on the island by themselves most of the time, and they're gonna take all the flack. It's almost similar to O-linemen. It's like you're not talked about until something bad happens, basically. So those guys got their own little mindsets, and they're mostly me, or I'm by myself type of mindset. So respectful. So you better make sure you clarify what that is among the players in that room to understand what. Okay, this is what I mean by respectful.
It doesn't mean weak, right? Because it kind of comes off, and I'm not saying it is. The guy's in the NFL. He's not a weak guy, but it does come when you say that. My initial thought is like, like it sounds soft a little bit, right? So
right.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, now this one I was gonna bring up because poor Michael Irvin, man. Michael Irvin did you see this thing?
I read it. Yep.
He's like talking to a lady and the guy's just trying to go to his room. And this is probably one side of the story, but I think it was backed up with video evidence. But he's trying to go to his room. Lady stops him, talks for 45 seconds. They call him. Is like, yeah, you got to change hotels. Now he's not going to be on the Super Bowl broadcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like things are just starting to go well for him. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, man. Come on, Mike.
It sucks. And what's crazy was check this out, Mike. When I went to the last Arizona Super Bowl, Patriots Seahawks, that's the same Super Bowl Warren Sapp got in trouble.
Well, okay, so AZ's like I used to train there in the off season. It's that way because it's like it's that way. It's hot. You're in Tempe, you're in Phoenix, you're in Scottsdale. It's just that way. It's that kind of place. If you want to find trouble will find you.
Yeah, it's going to attract the wrong folks. Because I remember I was in the lobby. Me and my wife Marie sitting in the lobby. Super Bowl just ended. We just got dropped off by the bus or whatever, and we saw LaDainian Tomlinson because he did the cast for NFL Network. I'm talking to him for a little bit, and then when I walk in, woman's intuition. My wife says, she goes, "Hey, I don't like these two girls over here," and I'm like, I don't even know they were in the room, but she's like, something ain't right about them. I'm like, okay, we'll just stay over here talking to LT. And then we talked for LT maybe 5 minutes, and he going up to his room to change and come back down. And just as he broke off from our conversation, those two girls latched onto him.
They beelined him.
They V-lined him. And I said, hey, and I said to him right before he left, I said, watch these two girls to our right over here, man. They look suspicious. And sure enough, as soon as he detached from us, they latched on and he shrugged them off. And then the night was over. We went up like an hour later because we talked to some people down there. Then coming down that morning or turning on the news that morning was all the Warren Sapp stuff. I was like, what? I was like, those are the girls because they show pictures. I was like, oh, yep, sure enough. So they were looking. They're hunting. It was crazy. So it's hearing
Wait. Those are the same girls?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was
AG,
crazy.
you had a premonition. Your wife had a premonition,
Right.
huh?
So I said, man, women's intuition. She was like,
isn't that funny? So that's you just talk about like married guy maybe his wife's not, I don't know anything about LT,
right.
And then it's like Warren's out there like, what the hell? I'll take a shot.
Right. It's like, bro, you gotta be aware, pay attention,
bro.
and, So yeah,
oh, that's tough. Okay, so
cannot put yourself in that situation. So
yeah, wow, yeah, that's why you and I have been married for a long time.
Exactly.
my wife just goes. My wife's great. So we'll go to a thing like that, and she'll just pour scotch down my throat until she realizes that I'm pretty much I'm not incoherent, but
right.
If anybody comes up to me in that manner, like when I was in London, like we get hit on a lot. Okay. And my wife would just pour enough whiskey or scotch down my throat so I would think it's funny, and I'd literally be like, "Hey, you got to stay right here. I got to go get my wife." And I'd be like, "These girls are hitting on me, man. This is hilarious."
That would be me.
Yeah. That's what kind of loser. I'm not saying you're a loser. I'm just saying that's exactly what I did. It was
not a loser.
Looking back, you're just like, oh man, that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of awesome,
yep.
Your boy shows up in the media again yesterday, I believe Wednesday.
I missed this one, so you gotta fill me in on this one.
Okay, so I wasn't gonna. I'm not searching. I don't type in Russell Wilson and just hope every morning. This stuff just kind of happens.
Right.
So first of all, there's the whole like Sean Payton. There's a new report that says Sean Payton took that job in spite of Russell Wilson, not because of him. But that's neither here nor there. That's football talk. Yeah. I don't want to talk about that.
That's football talk. About. That's people trying to. They're doing this.
Seattle Times, front page.
Okay.
Russell Wilson's foundation responds to report scrutinizing charitable practices. In the wake of a USA Today network investigation published Wednesday, blah, 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 blah. USA Today reported that the foundation of former Seahawks quarterback spent almost $600,000, or just 24.3 cents of every dollar, on charitable activities in 2020 and 21, and nearly twice as much, $1.1 million, on salaries and employee benefits in that span. And it just goes on and on and on. And obviously, like here's the deal. Here's where it lost me. And I'm talking about the Russell Wilson side. Because Russell Wilson does this stuff for charity, right? And even though he has to have a camera around all the time, like, you're never going to say, like, this guy, he was just Walter Payton Man of the Year. I think not largely, but in part because he's starting this, I think it's the Why Not You Foundation.
You're right.
And he has, like, the board members are, who do you think the board members are? It's his boys. If you did it, that's what you would do. If I did it, that's what I would do. That's what you do. Now, would you use this as a means of employment? I think you and I both know a lot of people that use family members and that to do exactly that, right?
And a lot of charity foundations are run that way. Yeah. And they do it their day to day just like that.
Yeah. Right. So the problem was I think there's 3 employees that were making combined about $440,000, which is a lot of money considering their usual expenditures between $1 and $5 million. That's just a lot of dollars, right?
Yeah, it is.
But what somehow, and I don't know how this got twisted because I read 2 articles just to make sure I had enough information to not sound like a complete idiot. But something comes out to the effect of a spokesperson for the charity or spokesperson for the Wilson family said, listen, I'm paraphrasing. Listen, Sierra and Russell Wilson go out and about to all these charities. They were basically justifying that although they're spending the money on paying their friends, right, and not giving the money to the foundations that the charitable foundations that they're talking about. It's okay because they donate their time and they're out and about all day. And I just went, "What's wrong with you guys? Don't say that. Say anything but that. Like, right. We already know you're out and about." But the fact that he's Walter Payton Man of the Year and now his foundation, this is like, I just immediately scanned to when him and Roger Goodell are sitting in the booth together in the last playoff game, hanging out, and I'm just going,
yeah, doesn't look good. Yeah, it doesn't look good. Doesn't look good.
Hey, what did you think about the Roger Goodell saying the officiating has never been better?
I just did like this. Yeah. It still has. I mean, we're humans. There's humans running, play calling, and regardless of the process of instant replay or personal fouls to pass interferences. Like one thing we know for sure as players, there's always holding. So whenever a referee wants to, make his gaze go to the offensive line area, defensive line area, he could call holding every play. When it's obvious, that's when they throw the flag. When it's just this outright egregious, then they throw the flag. But everything else from the instant replays and some of the play calling, like we saw in the Cincinnati game, Chiefs game, that is where it gets gets guys upset. It's like, what are you doing here? Because you're deciding the end of a game. And we know this from I learned it my first year of flag football. Don't let the referees decide the victory. I remember learning that at like 7 years old. So that makes it hard on players because players are just trying to go out there, play hard, and whatever they do, it'd be a flag or a face mask, but don't, make sure whoever's reffing knows what they're doing in terms of just keeping the game. Let them how NBA goes sometimes. Let them play it out. Don't make a call where it's scheduled. If you make the call, be honest and do your job, but then make sure that some of the other calls. Not saying don't call at all, but make sure you make the call and it's the right call, basically.
Yeah. The one that came up this week that I was interested in was the roughing the passer penalty, because what they're seeing is like the full body weight, that whole thing. It's not really causing concussions, which was kind of the impetus for everything they've done over the last 5 years.
Yep.
And so it'll be interesting to see if they change that rule at all, because that one, for me, the out of bounds stuff, late hits, like I think you should be able to go to replay first of all, and those kind of deals.
I agree.
But on the roughing the passer, we've seen so many this year where a guy just like opens his arms, lands on the guy, it's full weight, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And they're not getting the concussion. I know Tua did, but that was a different scenario. That was a different tackle. That was it's just the way he fell. But I'm just talking about the ones where like the guy sumo splashes on you. It's like, dude, it hurts, but that's part of the game. Like we shouldn't be able to get a 15-yard penalty free first down for that, because that does change the like that is probably the worst penalty as far as like what it does to your sideline morale, your defensive morale, and just like changing the course of a game, right? That could be a 3rd and 5, 3rd and 10
first
sack.
Down.
Yeah, now it's first down plus 15 yards. That's a really big deal. So I'd love to see them do something about that. I didn't put this on the sheet, EG, but I did want to ask you about. I don't know if you saw the Baltimore Billies thing with the 2000 Baltimore Ravens team. So they did this 30 for 30 on ESPN, and I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but I'm sure you saw the clip where Trent Dilfer was talking. I think he said that when I look at Rodgers, I look at Mahomes. I'm really not that. I'm paraphrasing, but he said I'm really not that impressed because the wide receivers get free releases. You can't hit the quarterback. You can't reroute them. You can't reroute the receivers over the middle. You can't hit them over the middle. Like this game is easy, and that a little bit is that of kind of old man get off my lawn. But that's the stuff that and because they are great athletes now, nobody's denying that. But the truth is, at least in my mind, when you start talking about records, when you start talking about. They were referencing the fact that the Baltimore Ravens gave up 10 points a game, and nobody will ever do that again because the rules have changed. It's too easy to score.
Correct.
But for me, I completely agree with him in the sense that version of football is gone.
It's gone. Yeah, I agree.
And those guys, what they had to do and what they had to endure from a physical standpoint is just completely off the rails compared to what's going on right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was our time. We're all that was our time on the field, and it was a mindset. Like my mindset was before every game, the whole 11 guys on defense. I just thought about they're going to literally hit me every play if they had the chance to, and they're just not going to just how you doing, tap you on your shoulder hit. They're trying to destroy me when they hit me. So that's why I ran the way I ran to protect myself. I was always in a defensive position, ready to react. And defensively, because I knew they're going to cut me low, they're going to hit me high, they're going to hit me in all parts of my body. So that's why I was in the weight room the way I was, and the way running backs needed to run. I say any player needed to play was you had to be off. Called it defensively aggressive at the time, because that was where even though a flag would get thrown, it doesn't take away the pain of what you just got taken, absorbing a crackback or getting hit in the knee. Where your knee gets hyperextended and stuff like that, because they don't want to take you high because you're a hard runner or you're a great blocker. So you had to do that and do the things they did and have that defense the way they had the players and the coaches working together. That was special for them. But yeah, during that era, it was kind of like you knew you had to protect yourself. And if you got hit on certain ways, that means you weren't paying attention. It was like, well, you got to keep your head on a swivel. That was the mindset back then.
Well, and we didn't know any better. That's the thing. We didn't know
Not
these
either.
rules
Yeah.
didn't exist, right? So we grew up going like, well, this is what football is.
Yep.
And what's always interesting to me about really all this stuff is like when you watch. I tell coaches this, and anybody that'll listen, players. If you watch players now and the really really good pros. And I'm talking like the Tom Brady's. I'm talking about the guys that are like masters of their craft, not like the most athletic dude out there. I'm talking about the guys that grind, right? We know the wide receivers like that are down there with your boy from Minnesota, KJ.
Oh yeah,
the guys that are down there grinding.
Down in Miami,
down in Miami with Brandon Marshall's place. Like the guys that are putting in work and know those and have their footwork, and those are the guys that are the best in the business. And all they're really doing that's different than everybody else is, by and large, they're acting like, I think more pros back then acted, because I think the consequences were a little more severe. I think when I look at sports, I always start with, if I'm trying to build a model, if I'm trying to understand a thought process, I always start with like, what is the most severe consequence I can think of in this similar arena? So you can go to the military, or you can go to like MMA or boxing, some real combat sport. And when you look at how they prepare for different kinds of confrontation, and how precise they are, how accurate, how detailed, how many times they go over it, it's because the consequences are so dire. Just because they've changed the rules here, I think what happens in this sport, many sports, but this sport in particular, is because the consequences aren't as dire, we don't play as hard. And Tom Brady said that a couple of years ago when he was making a comment about how the game is just not played as high of a level. And he's talking not only physically, but he's talking cognitively, right? Because
I believe that, yes.
Yeah, because guys aren't prepared because they don't have to be. So that, the argument, this is like the LeBron Michael thing that's going on right now. Like the argument is not that LeBron James is not the most gifted athlete that any of us have ever seen. He is. There's no question.
Yeah.
The question with all this stuff is like, cognitively, emotionally, is it all coming together the way that it did in other generations because of the severity of the consequences? I don't necessarily agree that it is.
No, it's something. Yeah, where when you say that, like from that standpoint, in my 7th year, I learned. I knew of it because I knew linebackers use it. Same foot, same shoulder, right? And it's a problem. When you face a defender or even an offender, you create issues. I remember when I perfected it. Yep. So I'm in my 8th year. So I've been playing football since I was 6. And I'm looking at 20. I'm 28, and I learned, oh my God, I learned the 6-inch punch that Bruce Lee talked about. So when I hit somebody, their whole body is going to hurt. Yep. And I remember when I learned it, I hit one of the starting linebackers for the Arizona Cardinals in Lambeau Field. When I hit him, like he came in head first, I stopped, dropped, and then same foot, shoulder, his helmet hit me here. So that's all shoulder pad. That's shoulder muscle. What I've been, bow right into him. And he felt like crumbled bag of potatoes. And the guys on the defenders, the guys looking at him, they're like, oh, they're like, come in, like, come get him. He gone. They're like, and so when we watched the film, I remember breaking it down to like Fish and the other, or it wasn't Fish, it was Ryan Grant. And so, no, it wasn't Ryan Grant. I can't remember who was back there. It was Najee and Fish were there. It was 2006 season, McCarthy first year, and they were like, "AG, what did you do?" I was like, "I have been talking with the linebackers, and they said sometimes when they take on heavy fullbacks, they do same foot, same shoulder because it helps basically take the load because linebacker, at that time fullbacks were used very much." And so they're coming in at between 245 and 250, and they hurt if you don't prepare for that contact. And so that contact movement, I've seen Nate Wayne do it. I've seen Bernardo do it a few times. But then, I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure out how I can use that for myself as another tool. And he said, developing what I already knew. Like I knew that aggression was a part of the game, but then finding the science of knowing when to plant my foot and tying it up with my shoulder and my upper body. That's where you're getting at, the science of delivering a blow, and it's a blow that they're not going to want to feel anymore. And then the game changes mentally for that player. They're like, oh my God, this guy hurts, when he runs the ball, So
all the blocking and tackling systems, everything we do confrontationally, like it's all based on that. Like,
right.
How do you get to that position the fastest? Nate Wayne, there's a name I haven't heard in a while, by the way. It was a great guy.
Yeah.
All right, I want to do this real quick, bro. Can we do your picks for all the NFL honor stuff tonight. So we'll see how close we can get.
Yeah.
Sound good? All right. I'm just gonna reel off the names. So and just give me your quick thoughts. So we got MVP: Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes.
Man, that's a tough. I say it's gonna be either between Mahomes and Hurts. That's who it's between right there. Everybody else is there for frills. So
I think it's a foregone conclusion in the media, at least, that Mahomes is going to win, just because Hurts missed those games.
True. That's right.
I think it'd be close.
Yeah, you reminded me. So yeah. But Hurts had a fantastic year. But yeah, I'm gonna go Mahomes.
And as good as Justin Jefferson is, if he would have gotten over 2,000, maybe. But I just don't see a receiver ever winning the reward. Quite frankly.
Over 2,000, a little further into the playoffs. Obviously, all that counts towards the voting or whatever happens.
All right, this is a good one. Defensive Rookie of the Year: Sauce Gardner, Tariq Woolen, or Aiden Hutchinson.
Ooh, I like Sauce.
Yeah, I like Sauce too. He's a shutdown corner in his first year. That's unheard of.
Yeah, Hayden did good, fantastic interceptions, sack fumbles. How many sacks he had on the year? Like 8, 9.
He started off. He had a good first game. I think he had one in a tackle for a couple of tackles for loss. But yeah, he ended up with like 8 or 9.
Okay.
He had a couple against us, obviously.
You're right.
But, the other guy, Tariq Woolen, like he was a late round draft pick. That's another guy. He's like Pacheco, where you start looking at the stats. You're like, dude, he runs a 4.2. Like how do you drop that far? Because he's big. He's like built like Richard Sherman. But he's like, he runs a 4.27 or something like that.
Wow.
And you're like, dude, how did he drop into the later rounds? Like, how are you not a first round draft pick? But that guy's been great. All three of those guys are amazing. Sauce is just, he's next level.
Yeah, he is. So I'm gonna go Sauce on that.
All right, we got Saquon. Okay, sorry, comeback player of the year: Saquon, Geno Smith, Christian McCaffrey.
Ooh,
that's a tough one.
That is a tough one. Both did great. Saquon, he pretty much put his team on the back. Christian McCaffrey traded. And finished out the year great for that team. Got him to the big, the NFC Championship game, being part of that offense. Geno Smith
had that game where he had a touchdown rushing, passing,
and receiving.
Right
for CMC. Yes. Oh man, this is tough.
It's got to be Geno, man. Like Geno,
I'll say Geno because of what
it's come back for 7 years. It's 7 years of comeback.
That's what I'm saying. Jets. He goes second round to the Jets, and he came in very cocky, and he admitted that. And he just
West Virginia, right?
West Virginia.
Yep.
Came in very cocky, said I was the first round. I remember he making a comment, I should have been drafted in the first round. And as soon as he said that, I said, man, you're in trouble. I said, your mindset is in the wrong area. Right. Drafting just gets you in the party. After that, then I was third round. So I was like, look, I just need to get in the house. That's all. I'm in that building. That's all I needed. I'm going to show what I can do.
How did you, you were so damn fast. What was the knock on you that dropped you to the third round? Do you remember?
Yes, it was a couple things. It was my old teammate Lawrence Phillips, where he had panned out. And then they were saying I was the system running back because we ran the ball constantly. I can't pick up pass blitzes and I don't read coverages. But we did all that. Like Coach Solich, what people didn't really know during spring football, and then if we had an extra 5-10 minutes, Solich would put us through that scenario. He'll say, all right, we're going to do blitz protection. This is a cover 2. This is cover 3. This is where they kind of try to hide the safety by bringing him down. But then there's another safety maybe coming opposite of you or the strength of the formation.
Right.
And so we would just talk through that. And then spring ball, we actually walk through it. And so I could pick it up real fast. So that's what NFL scouts missed. On that, and hey,
how do you miss? First of all, there's two things that just blow my mind with that story. The first is, you had all the measurables, everything. You have a good great personality. Anybody who interviews you knows you're all about football. And back then, it was a legitimate running league. Like the league was not maybe run first, but it was a running
1,500-yard rushers, 1,800-yard rushers.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was commonplace. So the value is the fact that you can run. The second thing that just blows my mind, and this still happens, is that the personnel guy literally says out loud to somebody, and they agree with him, "Oh, he played at Nebraska. He doesn't understand coverages." What they're basically saying is they're saying that that's too complicated to pick up like NFL, or they're saying they don't have a coaching staff that can teach it. But in one way or another, you're like, I picked up I pick up coverages. I'm a damn lineman. Like, it's not hard. You know what I mean? Like that thought, not. You're in the most elite level buildings in the world, and they're like, yeah, we can't teach. That's like, here's a fishing pole and some line. I'm never going to teach this guy how to fish. Like,
right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
It was
gracious.
another one too. What was it? Okay. And like, they asked me what other sports. I remember being interviewed at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I played baseball too, and I played a little basketball and I ran track. So I'm like, if I'm a scout that played baseball, if I have a background in baseball, obviously NFL scouts at that time didn't have baseball backgrounds, right, or they weren't traditional sport athletes where they played multiple sports, because you would be like, oh, you play baseball? Because then you know how to throw the ball, you know how to catch the ball, you have hand-eye coordination things. Oh, you play basketball too? So you know how you got
awareness, the whole thing.
Yeah, you got field awareness, court awareness. You know how to post up a guy, lean on body. So if I'm running an option play laterally with my quarterback and I'm catching, you telling me I can't catch a ball out the backfield when I'm catching pitches that are either here, or you can't see my hand, but either up high or even behind me, and we're running full tilt with Tommy Frazier, he'd be like, you need to keep up with me, freshman. And I'm like, if I'm catching a pitch, sometimes it's behind me. It's one hand where I'm not looking at the ball, because if I don't, I'm getting tattoos. So I'm looking at the defender. I'm catching a ball with one hand and then tucking it. Then you tell me I can't catch a pass over the middle? I'm like, okay, I see what this NFL.
Glad you're not harboring any ill will over those guys.
Right. It's like interesting. So yeah, they missed a lot, as we know.
All right, Coach of the Year: Sean McDermott, Brian Dable, Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni, Kyle Shanahan.
Ooh, Nick Sirianni.
Nick Sirianni. Okay,
I would say between Nick and Shanahan. If I was just kind of shooting from the hip real fast.
I'm not against anything you said. It's just interesting because remember that, was it the Giants guy that came out, or the Stanford guy that came out and said Nick Sirianni doesn's really do anything. They just have the most talented team, which is completely ridiculous. The guy was just like a sore loser. It's just interesting that and he's up for Coach of the Year. Correct. Everybody thinks Dable is going to win it. I think Shanahan.
Well, he had to develop the most out of them and what he had, and he did.
I agree with that, except for it's the same thing as Sirianni. I think Dable's a great coach. I think him and Mike McDaniel. Like, Mike McDaniel should be up for this award, but Tua got hurt. But him and Dable, like, they changed cultures. But it's, again, like, the bar, wherever, like, the guy before him set the bar so low, or the three guys before him set the bar so low that he came in with this great attitude, and he's obviously a tremendous leader. But Shanahan has the number one defense in the league, and freaking he's playing with his third string quarterback, and they win like 12 games in a row. What is it? 12 games in a row, 10 games in a row, something ridiculous?
Yeah.
Going into that last game, it's like
I'm flipping.
They should be.
I could do that.
Yeah, it's tough, right?
I'm gonna go Shanahan. I know him.
I think Shanahan too, but I think Dable might win it, but I would vote Shanahan.
Yeah, because when you think about Purdy, 7-0 or 7-1, and getting them to the NFC Championship game, the game before the game, that is impressive. Bringing Christian McCaffrey mid-season and gelling him right into that offense.
Dude, 2 days in. 2 days in, he's running plays.
He's running plays, and he's having 100-yard game rushing, receiving, or total offense, a week later. So, yeah, understanding that, letting DeMeco Ryans be the coach that he is, and now he's a head coach with the Houston Texans. So that's just a guy that understands, learning from what his father did as a coach. You get to educate himself as a kid, but then growing up in the system too of being around the NFL. He was at the Houston Texans with me, and he understood he probably knew what I knew as a coach. Like, this is not a good organization, but you know what? I'm gonna work, I'm gonna grow. Go to Atlanta, go to Tennessee, boom, with all the places he's been, and is developing coaches around developing players. And so he understands the process for every player, he's aware around, things around him, with the whole situation that happened with one of his players before the NFC Championship game. He was, saying things that a coach should say because he cares about his player first, but understands the weight of the violation or the crime that he committed or was allegedly, called for. He handled that whole system thing really good. That's the only thing that happened bad was Purdy getting hurt. Purdy gets hurt, doesn't get hurt. It's a whole different game. We're going to see a drag out fight, kind of like the Cincinnati Bengals and the Chiefs game. So that was the only little determining difference for Kyle and his season.
So you're saying nepotism works in the National Football League? Well, that's why it's a question. All right, here we go. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jets receiver Garrett Wilson, Kenneth Walker III, the running back from Seattle, Brock Purdy. Speaking of which,
I was because Mark Walker got hurt for a couple games. I know, but
Garrett Wilson had to play with Garrett Wilson's like you should just give it to him because he had to play with Zach Wilson for a while. I mean, really, right?
True.
I mean, he was still that good.
Yeah, good. Yeah, they are. Oh man, this is a tough.
They're going to give it to Brock Purdy. Come on.
Yeah,
he came in and won. I don't remember how many games he won.
I want to take care of the running backs here, man, because it's all quarterback.
Kenneth Walker's amazing.
He's awesome. I had him on my fantasy. Yeah. I drafted him only because I saw everybody not, and I looked at his stats from college. I'm like, oh my god, he has really decent stats. So I'm like, I'm picking him up, and then picked him up, and everybody's like, oh man, he gets hurt. I'm like, hey.
Nobody drafted better this year than John Schneider.
Right. I was like, look, if he gets hurt, I'm going to keep him on the roster till he gets hurt. And I never took him off my starting spot for the whole season. Other than when I think he was hurt, I just kept him on there. I was like, I'm fine. So this will be tough. It'd probably be Brock. Easy.
I'll give you, this is probably the hardest one for me. Defensive Player of the Year. Micah Parsons, Chris Jones, Nick Bosa. Regular season award. Regular season award.
You said Parsons, Bosa, and what was the other one?
Chris Jones.
Chris Jones.
Yep.
From where? What was he at?
Chris Jones, All-Pro from Kansas City.
Oh, you mean defensive, so not rookie. So, okay.
No. Defensive Player of the Year. Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, Chris Jones.
Yeah, Chris Jones, the D-tack from Chiefs.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I would probably say Chris Jones. Chris Jones.
I wish it was Chris Jones, but I think it's going to be Nick Bosa.
He caused some damage. Like, he went Aaron Donald in the Jacksonville game. He took
went Aaron Donald last week.
Yeah, he took. Oh, nice.
Yeah, he went Aaron Donald. He went Cincinnati Bengals. I mean,
yeah,
he had two sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hits.
He took over that one player that was trying to block him, and the guy was a great player, but it didn't work.
I look at this like this is hard, right? Because what happens with Micah Parsons is he came out of the gate smoking hot, right, killing everybody, and then it's not that he didn't flatline, like he still played at
it just kind of was.
But his sacks, they don't have he's not going to lead the league in tackles, and so if he's not leading the league in sacks, like Bosa beat him in sacks, Chris Jones beat him in sacks. Because he's really not as good a pass rusher as everybody wants him to be. Like, you put him up against Trent Williams, he's not even near the quarterback the entire game. No. You put him against Tunzel, he's not near the quarterback the entire game. Yep. But you put him at that second level, he could chase every play down. You put him on a tight end, he defeats every play. Like, he's that guy. But for me, I always look at it like when I look at this award, I go, who would I not sleep because of? It's Bosa. For me, it's Bosa. Bosa's the one where I'm like, if I got to play that guy, I'm not going to sleep very well the night before, man. Yeah. The other two I can kind of figure out, and they're all amazing players. And I'm not saying that Bosa's that much better, right? But Bosa's got this thing that if you watch him, and you literally know what he's going to do almost every play because of the way he lines up. But his inside hand low leverage, where he presses into an offensive tackle, right? It really is It really is unstoppable. Like, there's really not much you can do unless you're running like the Eagles' offense, where you got a quarterback where it's like you can read option him. Yeah. But I think he is as close to unblockable. Like him and TJ, I think him and TJ Watt right now are like unblockable when they're healthy.
Yeah, and I know with Parsons, he kind of got in that situation when they faced the Eagles this year. That RPO, he was in basically limbo. And that was great for the Philly offense because then they could run the ball. They made him make decisions because if Jalen Hurts saw his position, I'm gonna just pitch it to Bart Scott or Gainwell or Sanders, or if you go for them, you know what? I'm gonna keep it in, or I'm throwing it. So it put him in a. He was always the read guy for Jalen when they faced the Cowboys home and away, and then that taking him. And once you do that, obviously he is taking out the game. He's blocking himself by making a decision if he's going to rush the passer, rush the quarterback, or rush the running back to thinking that he's getting the ball.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. All right, so offensive player. So who are you going with? You going with Chris Jones?
Chris Jones? Chris Jones, yes.
Okay. Which is a great pick, man. The guy had a hell of a year. Offensive player of the year. Now remember that they usually, if you said Pat Mahomes for MVP, they usually won't give it to him. But it's Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Hurts, and Pat Mahomes. This is where it gets tough. You forget about how Tyreek Hill was the MVP for the first half of the season.
True.
Forget about that, right?
Yep, man. So this is Offensive Player of the Year, right?
Yep.
OPY. Say the names: Tyreek Hill,
Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Hurts, Pat Mahomes.
Man,
I'm going to tell you mine.
Okay.
I think for me personally, this is another one of those things where if I was a defensive coordinator, who am I petrified of? And we saw Justin Jefferson, how good he is. I'm petrified of Tyreek Hill. Because when I watched a ton of Miami tape this year.
Right.
And there are so many plays where he's got great timing, blah, 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 blah. Kid cannot throw as far as he should. And Tyreek Hill is so wide, like people are so scared of him. He's so wide open that he's like jumping up, coming down with the ball, and there's still 5 yards before a receiver's there. I mean, it's just absurd how much pressure he puts on a defense, right?
Yeah.
And I know he can't touch the ball every time and blah, all that stuff, but God, he is to me, he is the most frightening offensive player in football right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go. What was it? It was a Tyreek wide receiver. Yeah, Jalen Hurts and Mahomes,
and Justin Jefferson.
Because Mahomes gonna get MVP. So, yeah, God, I hate choices like this. I would say if anybody would get something, probably be to my man in Minnesota, Justin Jefferson, offensive wide receiver.
He has the numbers for sure.
Yeah, definitely put up the numbers.
All right, I'm not going to do the salute to service or the Art Rooney Award because I'll be honest with you, I really don't know what they are. Assistant coach, I can't believe they have. D'Amico, Ben Johnson, Shane Steichen. I know two of those guys. D'Amico's going to get the head coaching job, so I'm going to give it to Ben because I thought he had a great.
Right.
But why do you have an assistant coach thing at all?
I don't know. That's a new one. I didn't even know that was up either.
Yeah, that's something.
I've been to the NFL Honors Award. I didn't know that must have been a new one. They just added or something. I missed that last time.
Listen, they're always trying to give out hardware, man.
Yeah.
Okay. We've done so much stuff for this game. I put down a little tape because I thought one thing that was interesting is the Chiefs like to play out of 13 and 12 personnel. Mm-hmm. And then just kind of figure out how the Eagles might play against that because it is, the Chiefs will play that, 20, 25 times a game on offense. And, as you kind of start breaking down the tape, the Chiefs have, let me pull up their roster real quick because they were playing Jody Fortson as their third tight end a fair number of times. So this is against the Cincinnati Bengals. And you see, when they motion out, what happens a lot when you go 3 tight ends, you go 13 personnel, you're going to put your base personnel in, you're going to bring 8 in the box, right, AG? And so this is the stuff that you're used to seeing. And all of a sudden, you're going to see a lot more man coverage. Not exclusively, but you're going to see a lot more man coverage. And then there's ways you can attack that. We'll kind of look at some different things you can do. So the Chiefs literally start off the game, the first play. They go man motion. You got 80 up top. He doesn't really look like a tight end to our eyes, but that's what he's considered a tight end. They run the football, and you're just trying to put the backside backer, number 55, you're trying to put him in a position where he's got to read Pat Mahomes. He's got to read the running back. Obviously, Hubbard's going to close on the running back here on the read option, but he's also got responsibilities on the screen now. So you're just trying to find that one guy, like who are we going to make a difficult decision, right?
Yeah. And that's you got to have that when you have Pachenko, you have Pat. Even it wasn't really a threat because we knew at that time Pat's not running a whole lot. That ankle was still a little beat up then. So, but giving them that look though makes them think a little bit.
So similar situation here, and I think what you'll notice is the way the Cincinnati Bengals played this. They line up. It looks like it's in their man single safety high, and you can see that Zach Wilson, number 55, the linebacker in the red circle, is actually just bossed over and playing in the middle of the field, ready to, assuming that Sam Hubbard's going to close down. He's going to be the read guy, so he's going to force the handoff, and then they're going to be able to attack this to the strength of the tight end side. So what they're really doing here is saying, like, we don't think Pat Mahomes is going to pull the ball and be able to make plays.
Yeah, no, he's not. You got to trust that. Firstly, especially in this game here, Super Bowl is going to be a little different mindset, but still wavering to probably not going to give people the ball or give him a chance to run the ball.
And the other thing you'll notice here, AG, is just Noah Gray does a good job, I think, for this team. from this formation, when you have the inside tight end on the right on the line of scrimmage and the backside guy hipped, or the guy outside hipped off, like you're not going to run any split motion, like he's just too far away, doesn't make sense. So formationally, from a defensive perspective, you're basically saying right now, like, unless they try to quick pitch on Sam Hubbard right now, which doesn't make sense given Kelsey split out on the left side of the slot here, they're gonna have to run the ball downhill inside zone to the right of our screen, the left side of their formation.
Yeah. And then trying to come backside, yeah, it's just a long reach, better, too good of an athlete for on the defensive side to make them blocks.
So you got a 5-man line, and again, this is the base defense, 5-man line. But this is what starts happening. You got 13 personnel. You're going in man. You get checked across because you have a check. Excuse me, because they brought the tight end in motion across to the hipped off section here. So now all of a sudden, the slot comes off, goes into the box. He's telling the safety to cover, and now you got 2-on-1 out here, and one of them's Kelsey.
Right. And I'm looking at this like, what's the problem here? Because you got 24 in the box not paying attention to Kelsey. I'm like, how do you not pay attention to Kelsey?
And they're trying to communicate. Yeah, they're trying to communicate it over, but that's like, this is the problem, right? Because you have, when you put in that 13 personnel and all of a sudden you've got little guys trying to cover bigger guys.
Correct.
And they're trying to switch off. And how are we going to do this? Are we going to roll safeties? Are we going to go across? Like, this is where, from the Chiefs' perspective, when you watch Andy Reid, this is where he's trying to attack. He's trying to get you to make these mistakes.
Yeah, and a lot of good coaches, and being obviously Andy Reid's been around a long time. He knows where players are going to go when certain things happen, when they manipulate with motion. They know guys are going to react, and because they've been coached to their fundamentals, like this guy goes in slot, no matter the size, you got to do this, and he's banking on that, and sure enough, he's winning.
So you see here, they're going to end up rolling to cover 2 here. They're in 13 personnel. They're on the 35-yard line going in. They bring 57, who's really their Mike linebacker, down. So they're playing just a bare front with their Mike linebacker outside. But once they bring this guy across, they roll the safety. And now they're just going to play. You see the outside leverage out here. They're just going to play. They're going to end up playing too high. So they come out of that base personnel, but I guess the point is, from the Chiefs' perspectives, is that when they put the Mike linebacker on the line of scrimmage to make that 5th down lineman, that is not how they're going to end up. Like, the Patrick Mahomes knows, as soon as they go in motion, they brought 57 down over the right tackle. That's not how they're staying. They're going to drop into some kind of shell coverage now. Why? Because they can't match up man from that formation, right?
No.
So they already know right now. And I think this is the hook and ladder play. This is the hook and ladder play, and he knows immediately at the snap of the ball where the ball is going to go based on their personnel and based on how they line that play up.
Yeah. And getting that shell coverage is you can only disguise it so much. Once the ball snapped, you got to have really good players and the speed and the awareness to disguise it, but then they got to react and be honest to the coverage, because once they don't do that, then they're going to get exposed in terms of what they're trying to do. Hide it from the offense, hide it from the quarterback. But then good quarterback like Pat Mahomes, as we know, he's going to pick them apart.
They started this play with Kelsey over on the bottom of the screen, so they had 3 tight ends over to the right. They motioned over, so it's a 2-by-2. They have Noah Gray and Jody Fortson over on the bottom of the screen, hipped off. And you see Hendrickson walks out to cover Kelsey. Again, they're having a communication issue. Safety, or the nickel comes over and says, no, I got him. A lot of guys are going to play Kelsey with a nickel back. But now you understand, if you're Pat Mahomes, all right, I've got man coverage everywhere. And that means that 55 is now lined up against my running back. And what does Andy Reid love to do against man coverage? Screen. He loves to run the screen game.
Screen game all day. That's his dream setup. Even though the man coverage it does stop the screen a little bit better. But when you got athletes like Pachenko, like O-line, that understand how to get downfield and create that sidewalk, as they called it, then it's an issue. You got the athletes to run it, then it always banks in big for the offense of team running the play.
We always thought that we wanted man coverage because, very simply, the other 7 guys or whatever have their backs to you. We always thought we can identify the will linebacker and whoever's on you. If we can block him, then it's like a guaranteed 15+ yards because those other guys aren't going to be around, right?
Yeah. It's going to take them, by the time they recognize that we're already in, you guys are pushed out, y'all creating a sidewalk, and now I'm just taking my time getting you in the right position to make a block or even getting in somebody's way. So then I'm accelerate past there and pick up more yardage pick up all the yards that I possibly can get.
So this is how the Eagles will play these different looks. And so I put a couple on here from the last couple games. 13 personnel versus the Saints. I think this is the 1st of January. They just go in 2 shell look, base defense, 7 in the box, comfortable running that. And they're just going to end up getting to the quarterback here. I think Taysom Hill's playing quarterback, but we're just kind of looking for tendencies, what they're going to run on 1st and 2nd down. This is, for me, this is what the Eagles want to be in. Ideally, I want to put 5 down linemen in the game as often as possible because I want that one-on-one with Hassan Reddick versus Andrew Wahle.
Yeah, you got the athletes like that. You want to make sure you put them in the right position, basically.
So we got it here. I think he might get half a sack on that, speaking of. Now, the Cowboys are a little bit different. They have Dalton Schultz. They have 3 guys that they use a lot. They run a lot of 13 personnel, but they'll run the ball, and they'll get into these kind of what we would just call AG, this is a running formation, right?
Yeah.
This is like our green right tight where we'll bring in KB, and it's like, I want you to play single safety with man coverage on the outside so we can take shots every once in a while with Javon Walker. Now whether or not teams are willing to do that anymore, like you see right now, it doesn't look like Philly's really ready to just go whole hog on this, but they're feeling real comfortable because their 5 D linemen are so talented up front.
Yeah, D linemen and veteran linebackers, in that game that can push the pocket, create a new pocket for that quarterback.
So you see Reddick gets upfield, beats that tight end. I think that's just going to be a key to this game. Obviously, they get back in that double tight formation. This is kind of like our green right tight. Yeah. Without a fullback in the backfield, but Dallas Cowboys just want to pound the rock here, and you think man coverage. You have 43 White and then 24 Bradbury are just playing on these 2 tight ends. They're in man coverage, and really ultimately the running backs with 57. Everybody else just has their gap responsibilities. Those guys do too, but on a play action consideration, they have safety coverage, safety help over the top, but ultimately this is kind of where the stress point is, right? If you're a running football team, can you have the eye discipline to understand that tight end's running at me, and all of a sudden they run H2 buck and the guy's out the gate, right? Not H2 buck, but whatever the equivalent for the tight end is on H2 buck, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be there, be in the right gap.
They're just so talented.
Yeah, good job with the D lineman just holding guys up, holding that offensive line where that offensive line is trying to hook them, and they're not allowing that hook to happen. And so there's no clear cut hole. I say no hole for Ezekiel or any running back when the D lineman keeps running their legs and not allowing that offensive tackle or offensive guard to get that hook block sit up. So that's
just the ability to flatten, just from just from playing from a guard's experience. Like if the D tackle can just stab and flatten you, more often than not, you're going to look foolish, right? Because because as a running back, I imagine AG, you're like one more step. Like I just need to get there. And you just realize like shit. At some point, I just got to turn up. Like I'm not going to get there.
Exactly.
I'm getting beat. You're not going to get there. Yeah.
Yeah. So when those plays happen, that's one most likely I ran up your back because I'm like, I got to get something, and I'm hearing the coach in the back of my head pick up a yard. Don't go backwards. So the good D lineman did his job by standing you guys up, or like I saw in the previous play, the nose guard stood up the center and the guard where they couldn't hook. They couldn't get around and turn to make that back flat for the running back. And then Ezekiel doesn't see that, so he has to go and run up their back. So it's nothing personal, but it's like, look, I got to get something yardage here, where it's a yard or 2 yards gain. So then it's a different play call for the offensive coordinator to the quarterback.
Just take it back so everybody knows exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So looking at 91, he does the job there where they're trying to hook him, right? They got him partially hooked, even a double team, and he kept running. He's running his feet, and he never lets the guard there. The center is pushing, but the guard never gets completely turned around to get.
He's attacking Tyron Smith,
right?
So a lot of the times they'll call this like a corkscrew almost, because they'll if they feel the double, they'll attack one guy, whoever's at the point of attack. So if it was inside zone, they'd be attacking the guard. If it's outside, they're attacking the tackle. but he'll attack and then he'll just try to get skinny. So the guard's surface area goes from I'm trying to push you vertical, and you look at Zach Martin right now, like all he has to do is push against his back, which is essentially fighting Tyron Smith from going vertical. They want to go vertical, but now you got the guard pushing kind of, you look at vectors, the guard's pushing towards the sideline now, and he's kind of working for the defensive tackle in a sense.
Yeah, it was helping him out here. Didn't even realize it. But that right there is making it muddled up for Ezekiel, because if he gets that hook, then Ezekiel could just plant his foot and get a little bit more outside, but then he plants his foot, it goes right up the guard and tackles our center and guard's block right there, and only picks up, I think he maybe picks up a yard, if that.
That's what happens when it's so funny, man. Like when you watch high school football, college, pro football, there's a handful of guys that Eagles do it really well. That just their guys stay. When I just call, they stay on their railroad tracks. So if you're the point, if you're the point of the attack, if you're the bumper, if you're Tyron Smith in that case, and you're the guys trying to make the vertical push, and you're helping that, and then the backside guard, center, whoever it is helping you get that vertical, but you're kind of creating the roadmap.
Yep.
If you deviate and just start drifting because your footwork's poor, your initial footwork's poor, like that's like 90% of the block, and like I don't know, 70% of the guys in the league don't do it very well. It's nuts.
No, so they said blocking from the ground up, making sure you're feet in the right position, just like throwing the ball. It's a lot of things, obviously. All the little dualities in football and other sports is all plants on from your feet all the way up to from your knees, your ankles, your hips, and how you can bend and how much strength you have. So it's always starting from the ground.
So this is where I think if you're the Chiefs, you kind of look at this and go, okay, we're in 13 personnel. We go motion across to a little bit of a bunch look here, and you see you got 3-on-3 down at the bottom of the screen. So you can see obviously the two that are already lined up, and then the linebacker 57 is walking over to take the motion tight end. That leaves number 43, Kazir White. That leaves White on, I think that's Pollard in the backside. Okay.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of the opportunities. You can just kind of imagine right now, they can run a ton of crossing routes here and pop him out the backside. And this guy's going to get caught up in the wash. And that's exactly what happens. He sees the tight end here with either the crack or just trying to jump that route.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, 20's out the gate, and there's not much they can do about it.
No. And Darius Slade back, he's covering maybe that's Lamb. I'm not sure if that's Lamb or not, but he has to. Right. That's his responsibility. He's going to have to turn his back because he has to keep his eyeballs on CD Lamb.
Yeah, and this is what, kind of like the screen. And when we talk about when you go to 13 personnel and you motion, you kind of create a situation where you think it's going to be man coverage. You're going to see a lot of plays. You might see a handful of plays to the guys on the outside, but you're going to see a lot of plays around the line of scrimmage to the running backs because they're going to have room to run. Because more often than not, UAG are going to feel like you're in a leverage position where the guy that is covering you is literally chasing you. He doesn't have depth on you.
No. And when they're chasing me, that's when I know they don't have the angle to get me to this point. Like, right, if this ball, I'm not sure if he caught it or not, but if he
so he ends up dropping the ball. But
that's the touch. That's literally walk in. But when I knew on certain routes, I had the linebacker in trail position. I'm like, I got the win right now because you're behind me, and I have this. In terms of my ability, I catch this ball. You're not going to catch me. Somebody going to have to get an angle is going to be a problem if they don't grab that angle.
And this is a really easy scheme, right? You take the tight end on the backside, run him in front of Kazir White. You take the tight end in motion, run him right behind him. He's got a freeze, but he's got Pollard.
Yeah,
it's one of those. There's a lot of ways to win. The Chiefs are playing 10-on-11 football. They're not going to run Pat Mahomes that much. He's going to run out of the pocket sometimes. He can do some magic stuff, but it's not like the Eagles where Jalen Hurts is literally every single play a running threat. So you have to manipulate that defense and make sure you're getting the coverages that you want in the passing and really in the running game, but really in the passing game. When you think about the Chiefs, their short game, their screen game, all the stuff that they do to move the ball down the field, finding that personnel grouping and that formation or motion grouping that allows them to dictate coverage going to be huge in this game, right?
Very, very huge, because dictating coverage is going to depend on, what and how Pat Mahomes has, what time he has in that pocket, because we know with his ankle, that's going to obviously, I'm thinking about that all week if I'm a defensive player. I'm like, okay, we're going to test how sore or how healed up that ankle is. We're going to find out. We want to find out in that first series they get the ball. We're going to do whatever we need to do to get to that backfield to create some problems for him. and then see what type of amazing player he's going to be. Because if not, we're going to shut him down and then make it our game defensively, basically.
Yeah, my man. So I think with that, we've talked a lot about this game. I think it's still at 1.5. I got a couple keys to the game.
Yeah, me too.
All right, you go ahead then, bud.
Yeah, so it's still 1.5 for Chiefs there. Keys to the game, like I just mentioned, test that ankle. I'm defensive coordinator, D-line coach, linebackers. When we got a blitz call, that's what we're gonna test. We're gonna test it early and often, because obviously we're trying. This is it. So let's test it early and often. How healed he is. Is he 75% or whatever? I don't care the percentage, but we're gonna make him make the amazing plays that we've seen all year. I'm not going to just give him a soft pocket or a clean pocket. We're going to create issues up front when we have the players to do it. We have the D linemen to do it. We have the smart linebackers to do it, and the DBs to hold the coverage and keep the guys from not getting open. There's only a few speedsters now with Tyreek gone. Obviously, it's only Mako Hardman, who's probably the fastest Kansas City receiver. So everybody else is running the mill 4-4, no 4-2, 4-3, 4-1 guys.
Yep.
But the main focus from Philly defense is keep an eye on number 87, where he's at. We're gonna, do. I don't know if we could do bracketing, but we're gonna make it a point to try to take him out of the game. Because if you watch, Kansas City and Mahomes and Kelsey, when they got in their groove where he's just finding little pockets sitting in there, it's a 3-yard gain. It's a catch. He catches a 5-yard pass, then he runs another 10 yards because he's got a DB on him. So create those problems for the Chiefs passing offense. So, and then for Philly defensively, or I say Philly offensively, get that run game going. This is what got them where they are right now. So you got basically two polar opposites. You got a pass heavy Chiefs team and you got a run heavy Philly team. And that Philly team is built to run because not only do they have the offense and the offensive line and the runners to do it, they have the defensive front to shut people down. So if that gets going, it's a problem offensively, defensively for the Chiefs. And then, and then basic other little stuff, no turnovers, keep the turnovers where unless you get forced into one. But other than that, no turnovers, and then get explosive plays because as we know both teams can do it. They got A.J. Brown on the Philly side, and then Pat Mahomes, he has his crew of receivers that he could get guys downfield. You have those where it could potentially be, the over-under is 51. So it could be a high scoring, 25-24 game, 25-26 game. We'll see. But those little factors offensively, defensively for me, for either team to get the victory here for the Super Bowl.
I think I put my those are great points, man. I think I put my over-under today, or my combined score for my tiebreaker was 57 points.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game.
I think it is. I think it could be, if it doesn't turn into, the NFC championship game with Purdy going out, with a quarterback being out, then it's a whole another game. You get Chad Henne coming off the bench for KC because now Philly got to Pat Mahomes' ankle. So, that's a different game.
Speaking of which, I think that's one of my first keys. I probably have more questions for the game. My first question for the game is Hassan Riddick and company, can they get to Mahomes? Can they create pressure out of kind of those defined looks? So especially when you're in a 5-down line when they're playing base defense, and it's like everyone's got a man they got to block, and there's not going to be a lot of help. Can you get home? Because there's some, to me, there's vulnerability there at the tackle position because those defensive ends are so good, particularly Hassan Reddick. He's on one right now. I don't think he's very blockable, and which is crazy because if you look at his stature, it's like 6'1", 6'2", 245, 250. I'm thinking like, oh, he's a linebacker, like that's easy to block, but he seems like damn near unblockable right now. He has given everybody problems this year, so I expect to see that to continue against both guys this weekend. Mm-hmm. My second question is which number 2 receiver or maybe the second option on either team is going to make the most plays? Are we talking about Devontae Smith and Goddard at the end of this game? Or are we talking about if Juju Smith-Schuster plays, but otherwise, Sky Moore, Justin Watson, and MVS, are those guys going to take some of the pressure off of Kelsey by making plays and maybe making plays earlier in the game so they have to rethink how they're going to bracket and double those kind of A.J. Browns and Kelseys of the world? Yeah. And then the third thing is, and I think this might be, I think one of the keys to the game is obviously how they block, or how they account for Kelsey in the Chiefs passing game. But I think on the Chiefs side, from the defensive standpoint, they have to, Spags will run some pressures, and he hasn't run as many as he has historically. But I think you have to run some run pressures in particular on early downs, and keep that option of Jalen Hurts kind of at bay. And so, are they going to be able to, quote unquote, let's just call it what it is, right? They're guessing. Are they going to guess right in a couple of those run pressures early in the game in the first couple series? I think he came out and said it, like, it's important that they win early and set that tone early. If they start just giving it up, 2 touchdowns in the first 2 drives, 17 points in the first 3 drives, he knows it's not going to play into anybody's hand offensively or defensively. So are they able to guess right? This is going to be listen, I thought the San Francisco Eagles game was going to be one of the better games of the year, but it turned out to be a dud because of the situation. But assuming that everybody's healthy, this could be one of the better games we've seen in a while.
Yeah, I believe that. Defensively, offensively, they all have their personalities. Run first and run often. Philadelphia, that is their offense. We're going to punch you in the face with the run, and we got the linemen to do it. They're smart. They're physical. They get upfield on you, and they know how to do it the proper way. Defensively for the Chiefs, Chris Jones and a few other guys, Frank Clark, got into a rhythm a little bit last few weeks, getting sacks, getting in there, creating problems for the opposing offense. So we got what we want in a Super Bowl here. I think good matchup here, and it'd be sad if it turns into like we said with the NFC Championship game where quarterback goes out, and then it's a whole different game. So I don't want that to happen. I want a good slugfest, and the victor will come out, for this year and for the 2023 season. So
yes, sir.
Yep.
All right, AG. So who do you got for the game? Who's your pick?
Oh man, this is tough. I mean, like I said, we just said all what we said about offenses and defenses. I've been thinking about KC, but with the defense and the way the offense is running like a fine-tuned machine, Philadelphia is going to be my pick here. I like what Jalen's done. Offensively, very cool, calm, collective character in that backfield, is making clean. He makes solid decisions, decisive decisions with the ball when he's throwing it. And then running the ball is just second nature because that's what he's just a phenomenal athlete on that standpoint. And then they have the defense to support behind there. So that's where my pick is going right now.
I'm with you, man. I think Eagles 30-27. I think they're the better football team. Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes, and he might go down as the greatest football player that we've ever seen.
Correct.
Although I just read this article on Joe Montana yesterday, and I was like,
I'm reading the same article, ESPN one. Yeah.
Oh my God!
I started reading it earlier this morning. I didn't finish it. I got to finish it.
What an amazing human! But having said all that, like they're top to bottom, they're the better team. Like they have drafted and brought in players, and they've developed talent, and they have an incredible coaching staff.
Getting Darius Slay in.
They have a phenomenal team. And the Chiefs have done the draft and develop as well as anybody in the
great
the
job
business,
there. Yeah,
right?
Nothing discounting from Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy and their coaching staff. Yep.
But oh my God, like I just look at the Eagles, and everywhere you look, you're like, oh, that guy could be Pro Bowler. That guy could be an All-Pro.
They got 3 running backs over almost all the quarterback and the 2 running backs for almost 100 yards in the postseason. So it's like, don't let that machine get running.
All right, dude.
All right, man.
Let me hear where the people can find you at. I see we got a Ahman Green 30 back. Hey, by the way, so everybody who's out there, I tried to type in at Ahman Green's Gamers Lounge. Bro, you can't even type the whole thing. It goes at the end of Gamers Lounge, it goes white. Like the Twitter thing goes white. Like it's like, nah, that's too many letters.
Yeah. So I got my Twitter account back.
We're back.
I requested, resetting my password and finding my username, and they got it to me. So I'm back on Twitter and Instagram, Ahman Green 30, all one word, and the TikTok, and actually there is a Twitter one, but yeah, it's Ahman Green's Gamers. I think we're abbreviated on Twitch. I mean on Twitter.
I think you have to, yeah.
It's AGG, and then the last G is Gamers Lounge. Then that's the Twitter for that. But yeah, TikTok, Ahman Green's Gamers Lounge, all spelled out. It is very long. Yes, it is. Check us out. We'll put videos on there, or clips, shorts for you to watch from that podcast. And so Mike, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, man. MikeWall68, Twitter, TikTok, Process to Perform on Instagram. Subscribe, rate, review us, like us, all that kind of good stuff. AG, Are you going to be in Nebraska for this?
Yes, I'm going to be in Nebraska. putting my feet up on a couch somewhere and watching this game.
Love it, man. We'll see you on Monday then, brother.
All right, sounds good. See you Monday.